Okay, everyone, here we go. We are going to prepare for this quiz, right? Which we're all going to do really well, right? Because we're going to focus, we're going to engage with this video, you're going to pay attention, you're going to take notes, and you're going to do really well, really well on this quiz, right? So make sure you have your paper and pencil out, ready for notes, okay? So once again, this is called Quiz 1 Preview, right? Imaginary/complex numbers. Okay. So, first thing I'm sure you guys noticed is my imaginary key. This imaginary key is very important, okay? So we need to have it. So make sure that you copy it down on your notebook or on your paper because we're going to use it. We're going to use it a lot for these types of problems, right? So let's go with the first problem here. Remember, always read the instructions. The instructions simply says evaluate. So we are going to evaluate this problem. So the first thing I notice is that I'm multiplying I to the 29th times I to the 27th times I to the 30th, right? So whenever I multiply and I have the same basis, meaning I, and I, what I can do with the exponents is I can add these three together. So I'm going to add those three exponents together over here. I'm going to say 29 plus 27 plus 30. And I can use a calculator. You guys can use a calculator. 29 plus 27 is 56. And then plus 30 is 86. So this 86 is what we're going to divide by 4, right? We always divide by 4. 4 goes into 8 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 8 is 0. I bring down my 6. 4 goes into 6 one time. 4 times 1 is 4. And my remainder is 2. So this here, as we remembered, is my new I, right? This is my new I squared. So these three here all became I squared. And how much is I squared? What is I squared? Well, this is when I look up here at the imaginary key and I see that I squared is -1. So this is -1. And that is my evaluation. So I evaluated I to the 29th times I to the 27th times I to the 30th, and it evaluated to -1. Perfect. You guys got this, right? So a problem like this will definitely be in the quiz, right? Definitely be in the quiz. So make sure that you are okay with something like that. Remember, rewind or pause if you have to copy everything. A reminder that all this work is what has to be shown in order to receive full credit for this assignment and for the quiz as well, right? All right. Next set of instructions says, simplify the expression to a plus bi form. Simplify the expression to a plus bi form. I purposely left that like that because I want that to stick out, right? A plus bi form. A meaning the real number goes first. Bi meaning the imaginary number goes second. And how do we know it's imaginary? Well, because it has got that I, right? Bi. Exactly. So let us remember that what we do with these types of problems is we're going to separate each term, right? And we know that a number next to a variable means multiply, so we're going to separate. Let me pick a different color here since I already used purple. I'm going to say -5 times I to the 42nd, and I'm going to separate. 2 times I to the 119th, and I'm going to separate. 12 times I to the 100th, and I'm going to separate. And finally, negative 2 times I to the 53rd, right? So 4 sections, 4 terms, right? So I'm going to take each exponent, and just like I did in the prior problem, I'm going to divide by 4. So I'm going to take 42, and I'm going to divide it by 4. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. Bring down my 2. 4 goes into 2 0 times. 4 times 0 is 0. 2 minus 0 is 2. And that here is my remainder, which means this is my new exponent, right? My I to the 42nd became I squared. And remember, in my imaginary key, I squared is -1. So I squared is equal to -1. Now, my -5 times here just comes down, -5 times. And -5 times 1 is equal to +5, right? And there you go. Look at that. We did our first term. We evaluated our first term. Now let's evaluate our second term, right? So, what is the exponent here? 119, right? So I'm going to take 119 and I'm going to divide it by 4. Always by 4, right? Think of the Fab Four. You guys know who the Fab Four are? Extra credit. No, I'm just kidding. Not extra credit. But the Fab Four are the Beatles, right? That's what they called them, the Fab Four. So 4 goes into 1 0 times. It can't go into 1, but it does go into 11 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. 11 minus 8 is 3, and I bring down my 9. 4 goes into 39 9 times. 4 times 9 is 36. 39 minus 36 is 3. And this here, kiddos, is my exponent, my remainder. So my new I, I'm going to get from the remainder, I to the power of 3. And how much is I to the power of 3? Well, I'm going to move on up here, and I see that I to the power of 3 is, boom, negative I right there, right? So this becomes negative I, right? My 2 times, I did not want to do that. Wrong button. My 2 times here just comes down. 2 times. So 2 times negative I is a negative 2I. And look at that. I got my first term evaluated, my second term evaluated. Let's go to the third term. Let's evaluate the third term. So once again, I take my exponent to the power of 100, and I divide it by 4. And I think to myself, 100 pennies. 100 pennies is $1. What 4 coins make $1? And you guys know, quarters, right? And how much is a quarter? A quarter is 25 cents. So this is 25. And 4 quarters make $1. Look at that. 100 minus 100 is 0. And 0 is my remainder. So my new exponent of I is 0. And anything to the 0 power is 1. So I'm going to take my 12 times here, and I'm going to bring it down. 12 times 1 is equal to 12. Look at that. So three terms evaluated. First term, second term, third term. So let's evaluate the last term here, right? So 53. So I'm going to take 53 and I'm going to divide it by 4. Always, 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 when evaluating, divide the exponent by 4, right? 4 under 5 goes 1 time. 4 times 1 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down my 3. 4 goes into 13 3 times. 4 times 3 is 12. 13 minus 12 is 1. Uno. Right? My favorite card game. So, I to the 53rd becomes I to the power of 1. And I to the power of 1, just to double check on my imaginary key here, is just I. Right? So this gives me just I. And my negative 2 times is just going to come down. Negative 2 times I is equal to negative 2I. And look at that. I have 4 terms evaluated. Now I'm going to combine them. Now remember, I want A plus BI form, right? A meaning the real numbers first, BI meaning the imaginary number second. So my real numbers here are, let's see, let me change this. 5 and 12 are my real numbers. So I'm going to write those down first. 5 plus 12. It's a positive 12, right? And that leaves my imaginary numbers as negative 12i and negative 12i. So I'm just going to write those down right here. Minus 2i. What am I talking about? 12i. Minus 2i minus 2i. And now I can add these two boys. And I can add these two boys. And 5 plus 12 is 17. And negative 2i and negative 2i are the same sign, so I'm going to add them. 2 plus 2 is 4i. And since they're both negative, it's a negative 4i. And that right there, kiddos, is my solution to this problem here. There would definitely be a problem just like this in the quiz. Definitely be a problem just like this in the quiz. Okay, we got 2 down, 3 more to go. Right? Again, remember, make sure to rewind to make sure that for understanding, to make sure that you're understanding, or pause to make sure you copy everything down. All of this work must be seen in order to get credit in your quiz. Right? A lot of work. I know it's a lot of work because it's a tough problem because you guys are in Algebra 2. And you guys are smart. All right, 6 plus I to the power of 2. Well, this to a power of 2 means that there's 2 of these sets of parentheses. So I'm going to write 2 of them. 6 plus I and 6 plus I. Well, since I see parentheses back to back, I know that parentheses means multiply. And this means the monkey face. So I'm going to draw the first eyebrow. 6 to 6 is 6 times 6 is 36. I goes to I. I times I is I squared. Remember, there's an invisible 1 here, an invisible 1 here. And when we multiply, we add the exponents. 1 plus 1 is 2. Next, I'm going to do the nose. I times 6 is 6i. Now I'm going to do the mouth, or the chin, I guess. It depends on how you see it. 6 times I is 6i. And now these two dudes I can combine. Right here, they are like terms. So 6i plus 6i is 12i. And it's a positive 12 because, well, they're both positive, right? And then remember, this 36 that's up here, this dude comes down and goes in the front. And then this I squared right here, this dude comes down and goes to the back. So the 36 comes in the front, and the positive I squared goes to the back. Now I remember, wait a minute, I squared, this looks really, what is the word? I can't think of the word. Familiar. My God, I couldn't think of the word familiar. So I'm going to go to my imaginary key. I squared is -1. Look. So I'm going to substitute there I am. And I'm going to take out I squared, and I'm going to write -1, just like that. And I'm going to bring down my plus 12i. And my, wait a minute, no, I'm not going to do that. This is my -1. And this is a real number right here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down my other real number, which is 36, and I'm going to write it right next to it right here, plus 36. And my imaginary number, which is 12i, positive 12i, I'm just going to write it at the end right here. Look at this, because I know my imaginary numbers go second. I'm going to combine these two. A 36 and a -1 are not the same signs. So 36 minus 1 is 35. And I just bring down my 12i. And that right there, kiddos, is my solution. There will definitely be a problem just like this, multiplying complex numbers in your quiz. Finally, no, not finally, 2 more. Look at this. 2 more. So this is subtracting complex numbers, right? So let's remember that there's an invisible 1 here on the outside of each of these parentheses, right? So I'm going to distribute 1 times -6, 1 times -i, -1 times 7, and -1 times 10i. -1 times 6, this first one here, -1 times 1 times -6 is -6. 1 times -i is -1i. I'm going to write that. That helps me, that invisible I there. -1 times 7 is -7. -1 times 10i is a -10i. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write all my real numbers together. So my real number is -6 is real, and -7 is real. So I'm going to put these together, -6 minus 7. And whatever is not highlighted is imaginary, right? So -1i and -10i. And now this goes with that, and this goes with that. -6 and -7 is a -13. And -1i and -10i is a -11i. And that right there, kiddos, is my solution to that problem. There will definitely be a problem just like this in your quiz. Make sure you copy everything down. This is the type of work I want to see in the quiz for you to get full credit for your quiz. Okay, finally, we're going to, have you noticed all of these are just simplify? So we're going to simplify this dude right here. So the first thing I notice is this guy right here. I to the power of 3. Well, this looks familiar. It's in my imaginary key, with which I have no idea what happened to my imaginary key. It got all messed up. Look at this. It's separated. The heck? So this is I to the first means I to the second means -1. So let me erase that, that, this, and this. So, I forgot the heck number I was looking for. Yes. I to the third. I to the third is negative I. So, let's go back. I to the third, I'm going to replace it with negative I. Just like that. So, my negative 6x comes down just like that. So, negative 6 times negative I, right? Technically, there's an invisible 1 there, so let me write it as a 1i. Negative 6 times negative 1 is a positive 6xi. I cannot multiply letters with letters. All you do is write them next to each other. So this is a positive 6xi. So my negative 5x just comes down just like this, right? And these two cannot be combined because they are not like terms. You guys want to know why they're not like terms? Because this has an x and this has an x. Wait a minute, mister. They are like terms. But this one has an I and this one does not have an I. In order for them to be like terms, they have to be exactly the same. So here, kiddos, is the final answer right there. And there will definitely be a problem just like that in the quiz as well. So this is our quiz preview. Make sure that you understand every single thing that we did in this video. Rewind if you have to, because there will be problems just like these in your quiz.